Back in 2010, Steve Jobs hit the stage at an Apple event like he had time and time again. But this time he was announcing something completely new. It was a tablet, the iPad. When he announced the iPad, Jobs said,
"All of us use laptops and smartphones now. Everybody uses a laptop and or a smartphone. And the question has arisen lately, is there room for a third category of device in the middle?"
And the iPad has done a fantastic job of staying the middle ground since. But right now we're starting to enter an era where iPads are starting to cost the same as laptops, and the power is starting to blur the lines between a tablet and a computer. Can an iPad really replace a computer? Or is it still the middle ground between the phone and the computer that Jobs said it would be? Really quick, I've seen a lot of you guys watching my videos that aren't subscribed, and honestly, you should. I know you like these. What's better than getting alerted for these as soon as I upload them? Make sure to sub and hit that bell so you can get notifications when I upload. And if you like chatting about tech, make sure to follow me on Twitter, or X if you call it that, so you can just see me scream hot tech takes straight into the void. Twitter link is also in the description. Anyway, back to the video. Right now, to create a video, do all my recording on this camera, and then I take all the footage and I throw it onto my MacBook. I do all my editing, then I do all my brainstorming, organization, as well as Photoshop and thumbnail stuff on this iPad. I found that thumbnail design and Photoshop especially is just better on my iPad. I can really easily pop this thing open, I can grab my Apple Pencil off the corner of the iPad, and I can just start editing and painting and messing with my image so intuitively versus kind of clicking around creating boxes with the mouse. It's so much easier to grab this, grab my pencil, and just start scribbling around and creating something. The iPad is also my preferred way to do all my productivity and organization. It's so much easier to grab my iPad, open up Trello, start working on cards or boards while just relaxing on the couch. Rather than kind of sitting at attention on my laptop, I can just walk around the house with this back and forth, just tapping away, and it makes it a great device for handling little tasks like organization. And I know that's a weird nitpick, especially when you compare my MacBook Pro 14 to my 16-inch video where I was discussing the size differences, but this is significantly smaller than even my 14-inch laptop. And the fact of the matter is, I can get even more comfortable with this. I can, like I said, I can walk around, I can sit, relax, I can slouch if I want to kill my back. With the laptop, you more or less have to be kind of holding it in your lap or at a table, standing at attention. And what's great about this is that it is so much more casual. Before I get into what working with the iPad is, I want to get something off my chest really quick. The iPad is a great laptop replacement. And if you are on step 1 of your creative journey, I implore you to go get one because it does everything you need. It's got a decent mic and a good camera. And it's capable of editing a video and uploading video, as well as making the thumbnail. And you can even attach any Bluetooth keyboard or the Magic Keyboard right up your scripts. It's literally an all-in-one YouTube machine. I don't see enough people talking about this, but the fact of the matter is you can start a video and upload a video only using your iPad. And not everything can do that. And that's what I think makes it an amazing YouTube machine if you're starting out. With that being said, let's get into some details about the actual device, because that's where things get a little bit juicy. First thing about the iPad I would take over the MacBook when it comes to actually utilizing it is its form factor. Yes, the 14-inch MacBook Pro is really small, but the iPad is that thin, dude. It is 11 inches wide. It is incredibly light. You can just run around from place to place with this. You barely know it's in your backpack. And on top of that, it has its own 5G connection, which makes this thing the perfect mobile workstation. You have internet anywhere, and it's pretty easy to take it anywhere. That just makes it perfect for mobility. And I really, really enjoy doing Photoshop on the iPad. It feels so tactile and accurate, scrubbing around with a pencil like it's a notebook, rather than, you know, scrubbing around with your mouse and it being slowly and clicking on stuff. I just feel like it feels better to do art with a pencil and a pad. It feels much more akin to, like I said, scribbling around in a notebook than sitting at a computer and working on something. And having the freedom to run around and just draw things in your notebook is a much more creatively gratifying experience, I feel like. So I just much more enjoy sitting down and doing all my visual stuff on the iPad. And right there is the big part of what I would say makes the iPad amazing, is that it lets you tackle pretty much everything you can do on a laptop, but it lets you do it in a much different way, a much more hands-on way. And some things I love to do that way, and some things I'm kind of on the fence about. And that's where it gets to the dilemma. Thumbnails and social media are one thing, but the thing to complete the task of taking over my computer that has to be able to do comfortably is editing. And that is a much bigger task than doing up some social media posts. So how is it at editing? Well, on the iPad, you have a couple different editing options. You have DaVinci Resolve, which released a little while ago, but it's not the full thing. You have LumaFusion, which is a little bit older, which is more similar to iMovie, which is also on the iPad. And then recently, just a few months back, they launched Final Cut Pro on the iPad, which in my opinion is the most complete editor on the iPad. So that's really the only one I've been using comfortably. So the question is, can you make and upload a YouTube video on the iPad? And the answer is yes, you can. It's not that it's bad, it's just a little bit odd. Small edits, 100% yes, super easy. Full videos, that's where it gets a little bit odd. Now, I've been editing on DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro for a couple years now, so I'm very used to the workflow that those things present. And the iPad mixes up the process a little bit. It's much more hands-on and tactile, like working in a notebook, but for full-size videos and more complex edits, I don't really know if I prefer that experience for video specifically. The biggest oddity I feel like is the file management. When doing video edits, you're working with different clips, VFX, GFX, all kinds of different stuff. And on Mac, which is what I use, it's really easy to open a Finder window, drag things in, move things around. But on iPad, the Files app is a completely separate app. So you have to close the editor and go into the Files app to find different files if you're looking at moving specific stuff rather than just dropping files you already know the location of. And taking yourself out of the timeline to go do something else in a different app kind of ruins the flow, I feel like, for video editing. Final Cut is also missing a handful of features that are on the desktop version, but they're not missing anything that you would really need if you were doing a project that you actually want to do on the iPad. If you needed features like that, you know what you need, and you'd be doing it on a computer. And here's the fact of the matter. Even when you slap a Magic Keyboard on it and you can't really, it appears basically like a laptop, it's still not the best machine for video editing, unfortunately. Video editing is a really vast process with all kinds of little different bits and pieces, and it's really hard to shove that into a smaller device that's running a more limited operating system. That being said, anybody who is watching and considering starting their own YouTube channel, I don't want you to think that this writes the iPad off of the list as your go-to device. Like I said earlier, you can start and complete an entire video entirely on the iPad, and if you have no experience with video editing or producing or anything, this might be the way to start. It gives you all of the basics, and getting hands-on in the iPad is honestly the best way to get started and learn how to do the simple things like chopping and moving around edits. It's definitely not a professional studio's editing machine, but it is a bedroom creative's editing machine. And if you're between dropping $1,000 on a MacBook Air or an iPad Pro, I would genuinely start thinking about what you could just do with the iPad, because I couldn't recommend it enough. And not only do you get a machine that can edit scripts, edit thumbnails, edit video, you still get a good microphone and a good camera. If anybody who didn't have a computer or any experience editing asked me what to get to start a YouTube channel, I would say go get yourself an iPad, set it up on a tripod, film your A-roll, grab it, go film your B-roll, import it to Final Cut, and upload. So the answer to the original question, the title to the video, can this replace a laptop? And the answer is yes, and no. You see, I think way back in 2010, I think that Steve Jobs got it way more right than anybody back then actually thought. Back then, it was the middle ground between the smartphone and the computer. Times have changed though. People expect a lot more out of their phones now than they used to, and they expect a ton more out of their computers. The iPad has managed to keep up, and it still does way more than a phone can do, and it does most of what a computer can do. So the fact of the matter is, the iPad still is the perfect middle ground between the smartphone and your computer. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, Make sure to drop a subscription if you want to do that. Feel free to comment, ask me any questions, chat about anything. I promise I will be responding to all of them. And like I said earlier, if you want to get into tech, games, chat about absolutely anything, follow me on Twitter/X. My DMs are always open and I'm always on the app way more than I should be. This is my handle, and the handle is also, and the link is also in the description. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.